In today's video, I'm going to give you 7 tips for selling stock footage with your drone. So I've previously done a 10-tip video for stock filming with your drone, but there were some things that I missed out on that, or people have said in the comments. So this video is going to really be a part 2 to address some of those questions. But whilst I'm talking, I'll play some footage that I've had licensed and note in the bottom left corner which agencies they've licensed with. I'll come on more towards the end of the video to say which I think is best for you, depending on the type of content that you produce. I've noticed a little bit more of a demand for things like castles, which is amazing. Now, what I've noticed with this type of content is you don't really get best sellers. So you're not going to sell a castle shot and then it'll sell 1 week and then the week after. But what's nice is when you do get a sale, you often get multiple sales from the same buyer. So with these shots from Conway Castle, one buyer bought 3 videos on the same day, $46 each. So that's $138, which is not bad. Especially on Pond Vibe exclusive, you get to control the price. Also, the city shots, they've been consistent. Nothing absolutely crazy, nothing selling every single week, but with stock footage, you know, you can be having footage on there that's been up there for 6 months, a year, it hasn't sold, and out of the blue it just comes up and surprises you. So I definitely recommend wherever you live, within a sort of 1 hour to 2 hour radius, you want to cover as many areas as possible in that area. And also if you do longer journeys, make multiple stops along the way to really increase variety of your portfolio. So I've had a few comments about which frame rate to film at with your drone. It generally depends what type of content you're producing. If you're thinking this type of content is going to go for documentaries or news reports, then I generally go for 29.9 frames per second, 30 frames per second. This is my most common frame rate. That said, I have filmed a lot in 24 as well. And if let's say you're filming something that you think could be used in maybe a student's feature film, that the traditional cinematic look, then definitely 24 frames is something to look at. Now and again, I'll film at 60 frames, but I've generally found that slowing the footage down afterwards, it's the slowed down footage, funnily enough, that sells. But if I ever do shoot in 60 frames, then I'll upload both the 60 frame version and the 29.9 version. Okay, so in my first video, I said that with the color grading, you really want to color correct, but not go too far with the grading. There is one exception to this. Let's say, give an example that you're filming a haunted scene in a forest and you know that that is going to be used for Halloween content. In that instance, I would push the grading a little bit further because you're not selling it specifically of that woodland area. You're trying to set a mood and set a feel. So in that instance, I would go a bit further with the grading. So the third tip, and this is something that I left out from the first video, is a good tip when you're new to this is to focus on creating seasonal content. So when it comes to autumn, or when it comes to winter, when it comes to spring, focus on that season. This is great because when you're new to it, wherever you are in the world, you're going to have points of interest. And I would also hone in. Typically we'll go out with a drone. Let me show you this shot I did of the castle. But I'm not really being specific enough about this being an autumn scene. This shot here, sunlight through the trees, that's far more likely to sell as an autumn theme because I'm honed in on that rather than showing the whole landscape. So having a more minimalistic approach, honing in on the season rather than telling a great wide landscape is going to have a better chance of selling in the autumn theme. Another quick tip on this with the seasonal content is think about the timing when you upload. So if I shoot autumn content, I'm actually going to wait until the year after and upload it into the summer, because once you upload your content, with the algorithm, you're pushed higher up to the front at the start for the first month or so. So to me, it's not worth uploading autumn content in December after I've edited it. I'd rather have it on the hard drive, wait till next year, be slightly strategic with when I upload it, because then once it's got sold, it's then got a better chance of selling. I generally don't re-upload old clips unless I've had a new editing technique that I've tried, but it's a good idea sometimes to sit on some footage and upload it strategically the following year to have a better chance of it selling. The next tip is to do with the clip length. I've had a few questions about how long to upload the clips for. You want to look between 6 and 30 seconds. That said, you do want the clip to start well, so I'd much prefer to have a clip that starts well and only have 10 seconds than to bore the viewer or the editor, and then it's only towards the end where the footage gets going. But I generally do like to give them, probably my average clip length would be about 15 seconds. I'm looking between 15 and 25 as a kind of general rule. There is no right and wrong with this, and like I said, first impressions do count, but then the longer you give them, then you're also giving them opportunities to get more creative with the editing, particularly with shots like the pullback. So yeah, I start the clip off well and give them as much as you can, but don't go over 30 seconds because some sites reject footage longer than that. The next, it's not so much a tip, but it's people often ask how many clips do you need? When I first started, I set a target of having 10,000 clips, and I was going to do that in 2 years. It's taken me 5.5 and I've only just reached that 10,000 mark. So I don't think you really can set targets. And I think if you do, it can take the fun out of it a little bit because you feel under pressure that you've got to produce so many clips. But as a general rule, if you're producing nearly about 2,000 clips a year, then I think you're doing really well. 2,000 quality clips is much better than churning out clip after clip just for the sake of producing it. It is far more to do with the quality rather than the quantity, but you also do want to have a variety of topics in your portfolio. So 2,000 a year for a solo producer is a good amount if you're producing variety, reaching good topics, environmental, different cities, these sorts of topics that we spoke about a lot in the first video. The next tip is to do with working with people and model releases, and a little bit of a warning on this actually. You do want to be very clear when you're explaining to people exactly where the footage could go. I did have an incident with one model where they'd seen their footage and it sold in a few places. And I'm not earning loads of money for this, but in their mind, because it's going to big brands, they think I'm earning loads. So I think it's important not only to explain the model release form, but also to explain to them that just because I've had footage being licensed from Facebook itself, but I've probably only earned about $30 from the clip. So it's important you explain to people that just because they've seen their faces with big brands doesn't mean you as the creator is earning loads of money from it. So I would have that conversation because otherwise they might come and message you in the future and expect some sort of royalty. They need to understand neither of us are really doing this for the money as such. Maybe you pay them, maybe you don't, maybe you return the favor, but by explaining to them that just because it's seen by a big brand doesn't necessarily mean you as a creator is earning loads of money, then they're not going to have those jealous feelings. So it's best to explain that up front. So my final tip is to do with where to upload your footage to. I would say it depends what type of content you've got. If you've got a lot of editorial content, my general advice would be to go for Pond5 exclusive, because then you get to keep 60% of your royalties. And I've found that generally editorial content sells more on Pond5. That said, if you've got a mixture and you're really going to go for stock footage and you're getting model releases, this sort of thing, then it might also be worth uploading to Blackbox or Wirestock, because for a small commission, they'll upload to multiple sites for you. And this can be a really good time-saving thing. Full disclosure, I've never used those sites. I've uploaded manually myself to Shutterstock, Adobe and Pond5, and then I have a separate account with exclusive footage just on Pond5. I hope those tips helped. If you haven't seen my original video with top 10 tips for stock footage, I'll leave that footage here and I'll see you guys in that video.